Chapter 41, Fire of the Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mind staying in the depths of his soul, Douqi saw the purple flame and was immediately excited. It's done. He has successfully condensed his own divine fire. The first step in practicing the divine fire formula is to condense his own divine fire. When the divine fire condenses into a sign, the flame will be integrated into the soul. Thus, the purple flame in the depths of the soul belongs to Douqi's divine fire. With excitement on his face, Douqi was eager to show the power of his divine fire. With a thought, Douqi urged the purple flame in the depths of his soul. The next moment, Douqi released his soul power and swept towards the table in the alchemy room. As the purple flame flickered in Douqi's eyes, he saw the table in the room instantly burning with purple flames. Under the burning of Douqi's divine fire, the table quickly turned into a pile of ashes. Seeing this scene, Douqi's eyes showed excitement. The method he just demonstrated was called soul fire, after he condensed his own divine fire, because his own divine fire was integrated into his soul. Douqi's soul power also contained the power of his own divine fire. Later, wherever Douqi's soul power reached, Douqi's mind moved, and it could instantly turn into a sea of fire. This is the power of soul fire. Later, when Douqi's own divine fire swallowed up other flames and grew stronger, the power of this soul fire will be even more terrifying. Wherever the soul reaches, there will be a sea of fire. This sentence is not an exaggeration at all. Later, facing opponents of the same level, Douqi didn't even need to make a move. Standing in the distance, looking at him coldly, he could make the opponent directly put himself in the blazing flames. Thinking of that scene, Douqi couldn't help but smile. This soul fire seems to be very high-end when it is used. The effect must be very good when it is used. Moreover, the life fire resides in the depths of the soul. Whether it is a soul attack or facing the soul attack of others, Douqi will be unscrupulous. If someone launches a soul attack on Douqi in the future, he will definitely be counterattacked by the life fire in the depths of the soul. The feeling of the soul being burned by the life fire is not pleasant, which Douqi has experienced personally. Then, Douqi began to test other effects of the life fire. He slowly closed his eyes and directly activated the life fire. Then, the life fire in the depths of the soul suddenly emitted a brilliant purple light, and a huge suction force suddenly came from Douqi, pulling the surrounding energy into Douqi's body. Speed up the practice. This is another function of the natal divine fire, which can autonomously draw energy and then absorb it into the owner's body. This means that Douqi, in the future, does not need to practice at all, because this natal divine fire already has the ability to practice autonomously. As the natal divine fire grows stronger in the future, the speed of autonomous practice will also increase. Even later, Douqi may find that he has broken through the realm without knowing it after sleeping. Thinking of this function, Douqi couldn't help but think of the fallen heart flame in the original work. After refining the fallen heart flame, the fighting spirit can be tempered by the heart flame at all times, speeding up his own practice. Therefore, the fallen heart flame is also called a practice cheat. However, compared with the fallen heart flame, Douqi's natal divine fire is obviously more effective. After all, the natal divine fire can allow Douqi to have the ability to practice autonomously. Such a heaven-defying ability can be regarded as a real practice cheat. Moreover, as the natal divine fire gradually becomes stronger, the effect of this cheat will become more significant. Later, Douqi continued to test many other wonderful uses of the natal divine fire. Later, Douqi was surprised to find that when he broke through to the 4-star Do Huang, his Do Qi was still a little empty, but after the strange fire entered his body, Douqi was surprised to find that his cultivation had been completely stabilized. In the divine fire art, there is a chapter on the divine fire quenching body, which uses the natal divine fire for quenching. The scope of this quenching is very wide, and it has a strong quenching effect on both flesh, blood, tendons, and Do Qi. With this chapter on the divine fire quenching body, when his cultivation soars in the future, Douqi will no longer have to worry about the situation of the Do Qi in his body being empty. I wonder how effective this natal flame is for alchemy. That with a hint of anticipation in his eyes, Douqi's mind moved, and a golden cauldron as big as a table suddenly appeared in the alchemy room. The golden medicine cauldron was quite sturdy, and there was a faint strong aura all over its body. On the surface of the medicine cauldron, there were also lifelike dragon totems painted. As the medicine cauldron slowly rotated, these dragon totems were actually like real objects. This golden medicine cauldron was actually the dragon soul cauldron. It was the first time that Douqi used this dragon soul cauldron to make alchemy, and he was slightly looking forward to it. What was so mysterious about this dragon soul cauldron that it could be ranked fourth on the Tianding ranking? The palm of his hand trembled slightly, and the purple flame quickly swirled around his palm. He slowly put his palm against the diamond-shaped fire mouth of the golden cauldron, flicked his fingers, and the purple flame swirled in the cauldron. Afterwards, Douqi took a swipe at the ring, grabbed the herbs one by one, and then threw them all into the medicine cauldron. Douqi's face was calm as his hand left the medicine cauldron. His white hand suddenly waved rapidly, like picking leaves from flowers. As his fingertips flicked, the hot purple flames in the golden cauldron turned into dozens of tiny flames, wrapping the herbs that were poured in. It is indeed easier to use the natal divine fire than before. Looking at this scene, Douqi smiled with satisfaction. In the quiet alchemy room, the purple flames danced enchantingly, and the faint fragrance of medicine filled the air. The elixir that Douqi is refining now is called Douqi pill. This was commissioned by Douqi to be refined by an elder of Yunlan sect some time ago. As an honorary elder of Yunlan sect, Douqi can enjoy many benefits brought to him by Yunlan sect. But at the same time, he naturally also has to pay corresponding obligations. Douqi's duty is to help the high-level officials of Yunlan sect refine some high-end pills. The Douqi pill he is refining now is a 6th-grade pill. The effect of this pill can make the Do Wang level strongman who takes it upgrade by 1 star. However, it has extremely high resistance. A Do Wang can only take 1 Douqi pill in his lifetime. This Douqi pill was commissioned by Douqi to refine by an elder who was stuck in the bottleneck period for several years and could not break through. Of course, in the medicine refining world, if you ask a pharmacist to refine pills, you must provide double medicinal materials. Moreover, there is a failure rate in refining pills, and if the pharmacist fails to refine, he will not be responsible. In the past, Douqi only had a 50% chance of refining a 6th-grade pill. Often, 2 materials are consumed to refine the pill. However, with his own divine fire, he could control the flames with ease. With the blessing of the Dragon Soul Cauldron, he was confident that he could refine the 6th-grade elixir with 80% certainty. In this way, he could save a portion of medicinal materials and put them into his pocket. This is almost a popular unspoken rule in the medicine refining world. The reason why alchemists are so rich is closely related to this unspoken rule. In the tidy room, the golden medicine cauldron was slowly rotating in the air, and the purple flame was violently tumbling in it. As the golden cauldron rotated, the space around it also continuously emitted waves of continuous small energy ripples. These energy ripples were centered on the medicine cauldron and formed a circle. They gradually spread out in all directions and disappeared quietly when they were about to touch the wall. In the cauldron of raging flames, a thumb-sized pale yellow pill prototype slowly took shape in the burning of the flames. At a certain moment, a deep yellow pill fragrance suddenly emanated from the cauldron, filling the room and lingering. Looking at the pill that was almost formed, Douqi nodded slightly. After a slight silence, he waved his hand, and the purple flame suddenly surged in the cauldron. In a flash, it completely wrapped the yellow pill prototype, and began the last round of fierce burning. The purple flame rose for a blink of an eye, and then quickly annihilated. As the flame annihilated, a thumb-sized, yellow, and lightly shiny round pill appeared in the cauldron, spinning and spinning. At the moment when the yellow pill appeared, a fierce energy ripple surged out from the pill. Although part of the energy ripple was intercepted by the golden tripod when it passed through, the rest still penetrated and rushed out fiercely in all directions. Judging from this posture, if it is allowed to spread, the alchemy room will not collapse, but it will be damaged. Glancing at the rapidly spreading energy ripples, Douqi waved his palm casually, and an invisible soul energy formed a transparent energy shield in the room in the blink of an eye. When the energy ripples touched the soul shield, the two collided, and suddenly, on the invisible energy shield, it was like a lake with a big stone thrown into it, and waves of energy ripples began to emerge. The ripples gradually changed from violent to subtle, and after a moment, they finally dissipated completely. When the last energy ripple dissipated, Douqi removed the soul shield and pointed his palm at the golden tripod. The yellow Douqi pill was ejected by the golden tripod and fell into Douqi's palm. Holding the yellow pill, Douqi looked it over and nodded slightly. The quality of this pill was indeed much better than before. The Dragon Soul Cauldron plus the Natal Divine Fire did bring Guhi a significant increase. Not only did it increase the pill's success rate, but also the quality of the pill. Moreover, Guhi also found that the time to make the pill was very fast this time. In the past, when he used the Red Snake Cauldron to refine the 6th grade pill, it took almost a day. But this time, it took less than half a day to refine the Douqi pill. Although ordinary medicine cauldrons have some amplification effects on alchemists, the effect is quite subtle. If you can save 2 hours of refining time for a day's refining of elixirs, it can be called a top-grade cauldron. The Red Snake medicine cauldron used by Guhi before can only save 1 hour of refining time at most. Comparing the two, Guhi naturally feels more and more that this Dragon Soul Cauldron is not good enough. Just do it in one go and refine the other material. After 3 days, we will attend the event held by the Middle Auction House. This Douqi pill can definitely be sold for a good price. Chapter 42 Nalan Yanran's Shock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning. Senior Sister Nalan's residence is just ahead. Thank you, Senior Brother. The little medical fairy said sincerely to a man wearing the uniform of a Yunlan sect disciple. The man smiled and waved his hand, then left with a smile. After the man left, the little medical fairy looked at the particularly quiet courtyard not far away with curiosity. Sister Nalan, do you live here? But with a smile on her lips, the little medical fairy slowly walked towards the yard. Aha! 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 When the little medical fairy approached the courtyard, she heard the sound of martial arts training. Standing at the gate of the courtyard, the little medical fairy looked in the direction of the sound. Then, she saw a woman wearing white clothes and holding a long sword, dancing with the sword in the yard. Senior Sister Nalan, not seeing the girl in white, the little medical fairy's eyes turned cold and she couldn't help but scream. Hearing the little medical fairy's cry, the girl in white clothes in the yard immediately stopped her movements and looked towards the little medical fairy. Junior Sister Xiao, you are finally here. Seeing that the person coming was the little medical fairy, Nalan Yanran's pretty face lit up slightly. She quickly ran over and opened the courtyard door. Since the two met for the first time that day, Nalan Yan then took the initiative to go to Furukawa's residence to look for the little medical fairy. The two of them were quite familiar with each other. Come on, come in and sit down. After Nalan Yanran opened the courtyard door, she enthusiastically took the little medical fairy to sit in the pavilion in the middle of the courtyard. Sister Nalan, I was at the critical moment of breakthrough a few days ago. I really can't spare the time to visit you. I'm really sorry. After the two sat down, the little medical fairy said apologetically, the first 2 times when Nalan Yanran came to see the little medical fairy, she had not yet successfully condensed the poison elixir in her body, and the hidden dangers left by the poisonous body had not been eliminated. She was afraid of hurting Nalan Yanran because she declined Nalan Yanran's offer twice. Invite. It doesn't matter, Junior Sister's breakthrough is important. Nalan Yanran had a smile on her pretty face and said nonchalantly, if Junior Sister feels sorry for you, just come over and stay with her more often. Ever since she got the materials for refining Huangji pill from Guhi that day, Yunyun had been going out often, which made Nalan Yanran, who practiced alone every day, feel a little bored. When she was bored, she thought of Furukawa's request that day, and couldn't bear the loneliness. She went to Furukawa's residence twice to look for the little fairy doctor. At this moment, seeing the little medical fairy coming to accompany her, she was naturally very happy. Okay, as long as Senior Sister Nalan doesn't get bored, Junior Sister will come over to accompany you often. When the little medical fairy heard this, a smile appeared on her face and she responded without hesitation. The little medical fairy came to Yunlan sect for the first time and knew few people. She was a little happy to be able to make friends with Senior Sister Nalan in front of her. It's too late for me to be happy that Junior Sister can come to accompany me. How can I be bored? Nalan Yanran said with a smile. The two of them are both girls and similar in age, so they naturally have different topics in common. Soon, the two of you were sitting in the pavilion, and you started chatting. Time passed quickly, and the two of them unknowingly chatted in the pavilion for 2 full hours. Yeah, we've been chatting for so long. Junior Sister, stop chatting. I'm here to teach you the art of martial arts. At this time, Nalan Yanran looked at the sky and then pulled the little medical fairy to an open area in the yard. Junior sister, do you know how to fight? At this time, Nalan Yanran suddenly thought of something and looked at the little medical fairy. If the opponent doesn't even know how to fight, it will be difficult to teach him. After all, the best way to practice martial arts is to practice with two people, so that you can progress faster. Hearing this, the little medical fairy secretly thought that she was lucky. Fortunately, the teacher taught her the dual wave palm yesterday, otherwise she would have been very embarrassed. Senior sister, I only know one yellow level advanced fighting skill, Duolangshang. The little medical fairy responded. It doesn't matter, as long as you know a fighting skill. Hearing this, Nalan Yanran smiled slightly. Since you only know palm skills, let me practice palm skills with you first. After saying that, Nalan Yanran said to the little medical fairy with confidence, Junior sister, now you use the folding wave palm with all your strength to attack, we'll teach you how to defend first. This. Senior sister, do you really need to use all your strength? Hearing this, the little medical fairy was startled. During the previous chat, Nalan Yanran revealed that her cultivation level was in the realm of a 4-star fighter. Since he is a 9-star fighter, if he hits with all his strength, can senior sister Nalan be able to take it? Certainly. Seeing that the little medical fairy was hesitant, Nalan Yanran said with certainty, only by using all your strength can I know your strength. In this case, can guide you better. Nalan Yanran insisted, Junior sister, don't worry, don't underestimate your senior sister. Among the younger generation of Yunlan sect, no one can hurt me yet. Well, senior sister, you have to be careful. Seeing that Nalan Yanran was so confident, the little medical fairy felt a little relieved, but to be on the safe side, she decided to only use the 4th level of strength. Junior sister, we are ready, just let your horse come over. Nalan Yanran said with a hint of excitement on her face. In the past, she practiced alone. It was a rare day to have a partner, which immediately made her feel novel and excited. Floating wave palm, the little medical fairy nodded, and immediately the fighting energy gathered in the palm of his hand. He quickened his pace and struck directly at Nalan Yanran with a sharp palm print. Junior sister, what a great palm technique. Looking at the fierce momentum emanating from the palm of the little medical immortal, Nalan Yanran's beautiful eyes lit up. Junior sister Xian'er's palm technique is really good. Then, with confidence on her face, Nalan Yanran looked at the palm print of the little medical immortal that was coming at her quickly, raised her palm calmly, and the fighting spirit in her body surged, and then suddenly blasted out a palm, confronting the palm print of the little medical immortal. However, at the moment when the two palm prints touched, Nalan Yanran's face suddenly changed. She felt that a huge force without warning came from the soft palm of the little medical immortal. At that moment, Nalan Yanran's figure was like being hit by a heavy hammer. After her feet retreated several steps, she stopped her figure in a somewhat embarrassed manner. Ah! Senior sister Nalan, are you okay? Seeing Nalan Yanran being beaten back so far by her palm, Yixian panicked and hurriedly went forward to help Nalan Yanran up. Nalan Yanran didn't care about the tightness in her chest at this moment, and looked at Yixian in shock. Junior sister, what is your cultivation? Facing Nalan Yanran's unbelievable eyes, Yixian felt a little sorry, and then hesitated for a moment before whispering, Senior sister Nalan, a few days ago, I just broke through to the star fighter. Yixian was afraid that her identity as a poisonous body would be exposed, so she decided to hide her true cultivation first. Hearing Yixian's weak voice, Nalan Yanran's eyes suddenly became a little dull. Chapter 43 Special Training. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Junior sister, you said earlier that you are only 16 years old this year. Nalan Yanran looked at the little medical fairy with dull eyes. Yes. Hearing this, the little medical fairy nodded slightly. 16-year-old 6-star fighter. Nalan Yanran muttered, with a complicated expression on her face. Obviously, Nalan Yanran was hit. Originally, she thought that her talent was enough to be called the #1 genius in the Yunlan sect. This made her feel a little complacent and a little proud. Now, the appearance of the little medical fairy made her feel a little frustrated. However, Nalan Yanran has been a person who refuses to admit defeat since she was a child. Soon, she came out of the loss and regained her fighting spirit. Junior sister Xiao, I will definitely surpass you. I muttered silently in my heart to cheer myself up. She has decided to practice harder in the future. In this case, she is worthy of the name of Yunlan sect. Then Nalan Yanran pretended to look at the little medical fairy as if nothing had happened, and said with a smile, Junior sister, I didn't expect you to hide it so secretly. Senior sister, I didn't hurt you, did I? When the little medical fairy heard this, she felt even more ashamed and said with an apologetic tone. It's okay, come on, junior sister, let's continue sparring. Nalan Yanran smiled slightly and joked, but this time you don't have to use all your strength. A 6-star fighter's full blow is too much to bear. Yes, I will pay attention. The little medical fairy thought, just now I used 4 levels of strength, so now I will use 2 levels of strength. This should not hurt senior sister Nalan. Next, the two began to palm each other in a friendly manner. Snap. 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 Teacher. In the courtyard, Guhi was enjoying tea in the pavilion when Ling suddenly ran over. What's the matter? After picking up the teacup and taking a sip, Furukawa said calmly. The corner of Ling's mouth twitched a little, and then she said with a speechless expression, Teacher, didn't you ask me to come here every day and give me special training? Speaking of special training, Lingxian was slightly looking forward to it. Could it be that the teacher wants to start a small stove for? Sure enough, teachers are the best to me. Hearing this, Guhi was stunned for a moment, and then he realized it, so he naturally said, Well, it is true, you remember it very clearly. Well, teacher, what special training do you want to give? Ling asked expectantly. When Furukawa mentioned the special training this time, he said it would make him feel less painful the next time he received the initiation. This made Ling very excited. If the power transfer didn't hurt, then he could endure it for a while and improve his strength. This special training is to temper your body. Ko said calmly. Then, Furukawa reached out and touched it, and a large bathtub appeared directly in the yard. Teacher, what is this for? Looking at the large bathtub that appeared out of thin air, Ling was a little puzzled. Go, get some water and fill the tub. Furukawa did not explain, but directly ordered Ling. Oh. When Ling heard this, although she was a little confused, she still obeyed obediently. Soon, the big bathtub in the yard was filled with Ling. Teacher, it's already installed. Ling came to Guhi and said. Hearing this, Guhi glanced up, then pointed to the large bathtub filled with water and said, Jump in. Ah. Ling was stunned for a moment, and then under Furukawa's unquestionable gaze, she had no choice but to jump into the tub. Teacher, what are you doing? Ling asked curiously as she soaked in the bathtub. You'll find out later. Furukawa smiled slightly, and then took out a jade bottle from the Neji. Remember, your task today is to soak in this tub for half an hour. If you can't do it, you don't have to come here anymore. Holding the jade bottle in his hand, Furukawa said seriously. After hearing Furukawa's first words, Ling had an unknown premonition in her heart, but after hearing what happened, Ling couldn't help but feel excited and looked at Furukawa in disbelief. Teacher, you are serious. The meaning behind Furukawa's words was obvious. If you can't hold on for half an hour, you will most likely be expelled from the school. Thinking of this, Ling's heart tightened, and her eyes gradually became firm. Teacher, don't worry, this disciple will definitely persevere. Really? Don't force yourself. Furukawa said lightly, then opened the bottle cap, and then poured a stream of red liquid into the bathtub. Teacher, what is this? Ling looked at the red liquid poured out by Guhi and wondered. Burning blood powder. Furukawa said calmly. The moment Furukawa finished speaking, the bathtub suddenly changed. I saw the red liquid entering the water, and rapid bubbles appeared quickly, as if the water in the entire bathtub had been boiled. Soon, the water in the entire bathtub turned red. Ling was about to say something when his face suddenly changed and he felt a strong hot feeling suddenly coming from the water. In an instant, Ling felt like she was in a furnace. Remember, half an hour. Furukawa said calmly and returned directly to the pavilion. Hearing this, Ling's heart trembled, and then his face gradually became firm. Teacher, don't worry. Looking at the background of Ling leaving, he muttered in his heart, then, his face instantly became solemn, he felt a fierce hot force, penetrating into his body through the pores of his body, and the limbs and bones were burning with severe pain. At this moment, he finally understood the meaning of Guhi's words. Such pain, to persist for half an hour, really requires an extremely strong will. However, even if it is painful, you have to persist. Ling thought silently in his heart, although the teacher's words may be a joke, but Ling knew that if he really couldn't persist for half an hour, he would definitely disappoint the teacher. This is definitely what Ling didn't want to see. Isn't it just half an hour? I don't believe it. Ling slowly closed his eyes and accepted the medicine liquid tempering all over his body. Soon, the heat in the tub became more and more intense, and Ling was in more pain than before. At this moment, his face was a little distorted. Persist. You must persist. Although in pain, Ling's mind remained calm. He felt that his body was gradually changing after being tempered by these blood-burning powders. Ling operated the purple sun art with difficulty, taking this opportunity to temper his body and fighting spirit. In the pavilion, Guhi watched this scene, and a trace of relief flashed in the depths of his eyes. This kid did not disappoint himself. Chapter 44 Mitre Auction House. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half an hour later, Ling jumped out of the bathtub and looked at Guhi in the pavilion. Teacher, I held on for half an hour. Hearing this, Guhi slowly put down the teacup in his hand and nodded to Ling. Well, not bad, keep up the good work and continue tomorrow. Hearing this, Ling's mouth twitched slightly, but finally compromised and said, Yes, teacher. Apply some Bingxin ointment after you go back, so that you can recover faster. Seeing that Ling's body was a little red and swollen, Guhi reminded. Okay, teacher. Ling nodded, and then slowly left the villa. 2 days later, early in the morning, Guhi left Yunlan sect directly and came to the imperial capital. He had received news that today was the day when the Mittel auction house held an auction. Standing at the end of the crowded street, Guhi looked up at the giant auction house in front of him, and couldn't help but utter a sound of surprise. Although his predecessor had been to the Mittel auction house, it was the first time for Guhi to see such a large auction house after crossing over, and he was inevitably a little surprised. At the gate of the Mittel auction house, several indifferent men in black clothes and tight clothes had sharp weapons on their waists and eagle-like sharp eyes, constantly sweeping back and forth among the crowd. From the faint breath revealed in these men's bodies, 3 of them were at the level of fighting masters, and the rest had the strength of fighters. Sending people at the level of fighting masters to guard the gate. The Mittel family is worthy of being one of the 3 major families in the Gamma Empire, and its strength is really strong. At this moment, Guhi was wearing a big white robe, covering his face completely, and he was not worried that someone would recognize him. Guhi was not afraid of being recognized, but he didn't want to cause other troubles. Following the flow of people, Guhi slowly entered the auction hall. The huge space inside made him lose his mind again. He recovered immediately and walked to the center of the hall. Inside the auction hall, there were huge screens hanging around. On the screens, countless items participating in the auction were scrolling. Guhi took a rough look, but he didn't find anything too strange. I think those strange items should have been kept in the bottom of the box to maintain mystery. Of course, some powerful forces can naturally find out about those bottom-of-box treasures through other channels. If I had known earlier, I would have notified Ling to come and inquire about it. Guhi thought to himself, with the name of Guhi Dan Wang, let his disciples come to inquire about the news of this auction. The middle family will definitely buy this account. His eyes swept around and finally stopped at the door frame of a treasure appraisal room. Guhi hesitated for a moment and then walked in slowly. When he stepped into the so-called treasure appraisal room, Guhi was a little surprised to find that this small room was neatly divided into no less than 100 secret rooms. These should be measures to avoid exposing the treasures. As soon as Guhi walked into the treasure appraisal room, a maid in scantily clad clothes came forward, and her delicate voice was full of charm. Sir, are you here to appraise treasures? Or do you come to do price evaluation for auction? The latter. Guhi responded lightly. Please follow me. Hearing this, the maid smiled charmingly, then turned and left. after walking for several meters behind the maid, the former stopped in front of a secret room, bowed respectfully to Gu He, and said with a smile, "Sir, as long as you hand over the items you want to auction to the master inside for evaluation and review, you can get different levels of auction seats according to the preciousness of the items you auction." Nodding slightly, Gu He gently pushed open the black wooden door, walked in, and closed the door. The light in the secret room was bright, and an old man with slightly gray hair was looking at Gu He with a sharp look, but because the latter was almost completely hidden in the robe, it was difficult for him to see anything. "Please sit down." Pointing casually at the chair in front of the table, the old man sorted out some instruments for inspecting the auction items, lowered his head and said lightly, "Bring the things you need for the auction." Gu He remained silent and did not speak. With a wave of his hand, a jade bottle appeared on the table. "Pills." Hearing the sound of the jade bottle hitting the table, the old man was slightly stunned, raised his head, and his eyes stopped in the jade bottle. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He put on thin transparent gloves, carefully took the jade bottle, and poured out the pills in it. As a yellow pill fell into the palm of the old man's hand, a strong medicinal fragrance immediately filled the room. Smelling this strange fragrance, the old man's face changed slightly, and then his eyes were fixed on the mysterious pill pattern on the pill, and a solemn look appeared on his old face. "Excuse me, sir, what kind of elixir is this?" After observing for a long time, the old man showed a puzzled look on his face, and couldn't help asking Gu He. "This is the 6th grade Douqi pill." Looking at the old man, Gu He said in a calm tone. "What?" Hearing Gu He's words, the old man's face showed a touch of shock, and then asked in disbelief. "This is the 6th grade elixir Douqi pill." Ko glanced at the old man indifferently and said casually, "You'd better go and ask the top person in charge of Mitre auction house to come over." Hearing this, the old man was stunned for a moment, then nodded to Furukawa and said, "Sir, please wait a moment. I will ask the supervisor elder to come here." After Furukawa waited quietly for a cup of tea, an old man pushed the door open and entered. "Hello, sir, I am the person in charge of Mittel's auction house, Mittel 2. As soon as the old man came in, he first introduced himself to Furukawa. "I am Furukawa." Hearing this, Furukawa said calmly, "Furukawa is probably the only one in the entire Jiama Empire who can obtain 6th grade elixirs, therefore, as long as Furukawa plans to auction off this spirit-fighting pill, his identity cannot be hidden. It is indeed Mr. Alchemy King." Seeing Furukawa reveal his identity, Mittel showed a smile on his lips. Obviously, he had already guessed Furukawa's identity. After all, except for the 6th grade alchemist, no one else can get the 6th grade elixir. "Your Excellency, I just want to participate in this auction quietly." Looking at Mitre, Koga slowly said. Hearing this, Mittel too was stunned for a moment, then showed an affirmative smile and responded, "I understand, before the auction begins, the news of Lord Dan King's coming here will never be leaked." As for after the auction started, when the 6th grade elixir appeared, even a fool knew that it was the Alchemy King Furukawa. Chapter 45, Gu He's Worries. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45 Worry in the River. Hearing the hidden meaning of Mitre Tushan's words, he was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "Then please start testing the elixir." Hearing this, Mitre Tushan smiled lightly and said, "How can the elixir that His Excellency Lord Dan took out be fake? Since Your Excellency said this Douqi Dan, then I will naturally follow the instructions of Douqi Dan. Specifications for auction." Hearing this, Yixian was stunned for a moment, secretly thinking that this guy deserves to be a member of the Mitre family, and what he said made people feel comfortable. "In that case, I wonder how much this Douqi Dan is priced at?" he continued to ask. "The Douqi Dan is a grade elixir. This is the most precious item in this auction. I will auction the Douqi Dan as the finale item later. As for the price, it's up to the heads of the major aristocratic families to decide." Mitre Tushan said with a smile, "The strength of the heads of the top families in the imperial capital is still at the Douwang level. This Douqi Dan can directly improve one level of cultivation. For them, it is absolutely priceless." After the emergence of this spirit-fighting pill, the heads of several top aristocratic families will surely compete crazily. Under such circumstances, Mitre Tushan believed that the price of this spiritual pill would not be low. He naturally understood what Mitre Tushan meant and nodded gently. Your Majesty King Dan, this is your room number. The auction will begin later. Please check the number. At this time, Mitre Tushan handed a card made of green jade to he. Nodding, he took the card casually, and then asked, by the way, can you give me a list of items for this auction? Hearing this, Mitre Tushan was slightly startled, then immediately responded, no problem. Then, I saw his right hand crossing the ring, and a list suddenly appeared in his palm. Your Excellency King Dan, please. Mitre Tushan handed the list in his hand to Day. Thank you. He took the list casually, thanked him, and then slowly left the treasure appraisal room. After he left, the old man who left earlier walked in again. Elder Supervisor, is that person really Dan Wang Day just now? The old man looked at Mitre Tushan with a somewhat shocked expression. Well, I didn't expect that a big shot like King Danhe would appear in this auction. Mitre Tushan shook his head and said, I'm afraid the quality of this auction will disappoint him. With that said, Mitre Tushan ordered the old man, after the auction begins, immediately release the news about the grade pill and the spirit pill to the heads of several aristocratic families so that they can be fully prepared. After hearing this, the old man said respectfully, Elder. With the green card in his hand, he successfully found his own room to sit down. Looking at the auction venue outside the room, it was already crowded with people, and the scene was very lively. The Mitre auction house is worthy of being the first auction house in the Gama Empire. It is indeed very popular. Looking at the scene in front of him, he sighed. Seeing that the auction hadn't started for a while, he took out the list he had just received from Mitre and Tushan and looked at it casually. After a while, he made the list, with a slightly disappointed look on his face. There was only one medicinal herb on the list, which he could barely appreciate. The rest of the auction items were ordinary items in his eyes. However, this is normal. This auction is just a Xuanjia auction. In the Mitre family, the auction house is like a skill level. It is strictly divided into 4 levels, heaven, earth, black and yellow, with the heaven level being the highest. However, at that level of auction house, I am afraid that sometimes it is rare to open even 1 or 2, but once it is opened, it means that the things that the Mitre auction house will auction are definitely of the same weight level. At that time, almost half of the powerful men and power leaders of the Gema Empire will flock here. The memory in his mind remembers that when his predecessor participated once, the item auctioned at the Mitre auction house seemed to be a level fire scale crocodile dragon egg. Once the fire scale crocodile dragon is successfully hatched, it will be born as a powerful fighting king, and as long as it is raised properly, it will be able to advance to the fighting king level sooner or later. Such auction items are absolutely priceless to the Gema Empire. At this moment, looking at the list in his hand, he looked disappointed. Now that he has been promoted to the 7th level alchemist, it is indeed difficult to find 7th level medicinal herbs in a small Gema Empire. 7th level herbs are rare, let alone 8th level herbs. Thinking of this, he felt helpless. It's hard for a woman to cook without rice. If he doesn't even have 8th level medicinal materials, how can he sprint to become an 8th level alchemist? On the mainland, alchemists are indeed a rare profession, but they are also an extremely expensive profession. Although alchemy is extremely dependent on talent, if there is no continuous supply of medicinal materials, no matter how high the talent is, it will be difficult to quickly improve the level of alchemy. But if there is a powerful force behind them that can provide a steady stream of medicinal materials, then they can calm down and save the time of running around looking for medicinal materials. With such dedicated efforts, the results achieved are naturally richer than those of freelance alchemists. Therefore, there are many alchemists who want to find a rich man who can spend their money at this alchemist conference. Take his predecessor as an example. He was the biggest dark horse in the last alchemist conference. Before that, not many people knew the name of Day. After he made his mark in the conference, he was noticed by the previous leader of Yunlan sect, who then hired him as an elder of Yunlan sect. At that time, Day was only a 4th grade alchemist, but after all these years, with the huge financial support of Yunlan sect, he was promoted by 2 grades, and his reputation went from being unknown to becoming the alchemy king that everyone fears today. therefore, if it were not for Yunlan's sect, Day would have to wait at least 20 years to reach his current strength. This is the benefit of having a rich man behind him, so he doesn't have to waste time looking for medicinal materials everywhere. With the current level of alchemist, the small Yunlan sect can no longer afford him. Do I have to find a stronger force to rely on? Wang He thought to himself, a 7th-grade alchemist, I'm afraid no force in the entire northwest region can afford it. Only the big forces in Zhongzhou have such strength. However, even if he arrives in Zhongzhou, with the identity of a 7th-grade alchemist, Wang He will definitely be wooed by all forces. Well, let's take it one step at a time. In the short term, a 7th-grade alchemist is enough. Wang He shook his head helplessly and smiled bitterly. Window_tabula equals window_tabula dot push mode thumbs feed 01 container tabula below article thumbnail 300x 250 placement below article thumbnail 300 by 250 target_type mix. Chapter 46. The auction begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a boring wait in the private room of the auction venue was finally full. After waiting for another moment, a crisp chime of a bell resounded slowly throughout the auction house, and as the bell rang, the extremely noisy noise in the venue gradually weakened, and countless eyes were cast on the crystal auction table in the middle, eyes full of fire. At this moment, Mitteltenberg, who had appeared in the treasure appraisal room earlier, slowly stepped onto the crystal auction stage. Seeing Mitteltenberg appear, the originally noisy auction suddenly became quiet, and everyone in the auction turned their attention to him. Everyone, I must be a little impatient with waiting. In that case, I won't say any more official words to irritate you. On the crystal auction stage of Mitteltenberg station, he looked at the dark crowd of people in the venue with a smile. Finally, his dark eyes swept over the forces in the private room, and the loud voice echoed in the venue. As an experienced auctioneer, he clearly knew what the people below wanted to see and what they didn't want to see, so the nonsense about the opening ceremony was directly thrown away by him. But it was true, the old man's move indeed won the applause of the whole house, and even Lian Dai nodded slightly. As the first auction house in the Jiama Empire, I think our Mitre auction house will definitely not disappoint you this time. Thinking of the 6th-grade Do Ling Dan that was just listed as the finale, Mittel auction house Mitteltenberg's tone was somewhat self-confident. Afterwards, Mitteltenberg clapped his hands lightly and said loudly, I announce that the Mittel auction will begin now. As Mitteltenberg's loud voice fell, the huge crystal platform suddenly erupted into a dazzling bright light. After a long while, the bright light gradually disappeared. On the crystal stage, at the auction table in front of Mitteltenberg, there is a blue long sword. Under the illumination of the light, it reflects a cold luster. Looking at the traces of energy flowing on the sword, it is obvious that it is a magic nuclear weapon carefully forged by famous masters. This sword is called Han Feng, and it is made of cold iron. It can be said to be as sharp as cutting iron, and it is perfectly inlaid with a great ice magic core. If a person who practices water and ice attributes holds it against the enemy, the power will definitely be improved to the next level. It is a magical weapon, but it is a must-have item when going out. If you are interested, don't be stingy with the money in your pocket. Money is of course valuable, but it has to be lived to enjoy it, right? Mitteltenberg held the long blue sword in his hand. The sword shook, and a faint cold air rose up, forming a faint white air. He turned his head and looked into the auction house, and said with a smile, the lowest price. 1, please. Magic nuclear weapon. Looking at the sword on the crystal auction table, he murmured, the long sword is his preferred weapon, but unfortunately this long sword has an ice attribute, which conflicts with his fire attribute. Otherwise, he could buy it and give it to his disciples. Thinking of this, he had no intention of bidding. There were not many items on the list that he liked, except for the monster egg and a medicinal plant at the back. He was basically not interested. Of course, although he is not interested, it certainly does not mean that others are not interested. For a fighter, a useful weapon is like a medicine cauldron in the hands of an alchemist. It is a person who eats. Therefore, mid-air as soon as Tushan finished speaking, the auction house was filled with the sound of non-stop bidding. The first bidding lasted for a few minutes before it was bought by a thin man with excitement on his face for 10,000 gold coins. After the first auction went smoothly, dazzling treasures, armors, fighting skills, exercises, medicinal materials, etc. began to appear on the auction stage. Sitting on the soft chair, he calmly watched the others fighting for it, closed his eyes slightly, and waited for the auction items behind. And just like he, no one bid in the private rooms of several top aristocratic families in. For them, the items that appeared in front were not enough to attract them. A private room owned by the Nalan family, the old Nalan Xiao looked at the scene at the auction with a somewhat dull expression. This middle auction house is getting more and more boring. Looking at the items being auctioned on the auction stage, Nalan Xiao looked a little bored. If it weren't for that level magical beast egg, I wouldn't be interested in this auction at all. Thinking of the level magic beast eggs, Nalan Xiao reluctantly cheered up. If a level monster egg is properly cultivated, it can become a fighting king level creature in the future. Nalan Xiao bought this level magical beast egg mainly for his granddaughter Nalan Yanran. Thinking of Nalan Yanran, Nalan Xiao could not help but reveal a happy smile on his face. It is definitely a great joy for the Nalan family that their granddaughter has become a disciple of the head of the Yunlan sect, not to mention that Nalan Yanran has been named the next successor of Yunlan sect by Yun Yun. Once Nalan Yanran becomes the head of the Yunlan sect, the strength of the Nalan family will definitely be qualitatively improved. By that time, I am afraid that the Jiama royal family will not dare to take action against the Nalan family easily. Oh, it's such a pity for that boy from the Xiao family. Thinking of the incident a few days ago when Nalan Yanran went to Xiao's house to break off the engagement despite her own objections, the smile on Nalan Jia's face slowly disappeared. When Yanran comes back next time, I will definitely teach her a lesson. Thinking of Nalan Yanran who had been hiding in Yunlan sect and didn't dare to go home after she broke off the engagement, Nalan Jia showed a trace of anger on his face. At this moment, Nalan Jia frowned and showed a trace of pain on his face. A faint gray-black color flashed across Nalan Jia's face. Damn it, it's happening again. Nalan Jia hurriedly used his fighting spirit to suppress it, and the gray-black color on his face slowly disappeared. This branding poison is getting worse and worse. I don't know how long I can hold on. Feeling the situation in his body, a trace of painful memories flashed across Nalan Jia's face. 4 years ago, he had fought with a highly poisonous first-level monster, the iron poison seal Mang. Although he killed it in the end, he was unfortunately injected into his body by the latter with a terrifying toxin, the branding poison. After checking the data about the power of this poison, Nalan Jia's face suddenly darkened. According to the records, there are many 6th-level monsters that were killed by the branding poison seal. If it weren't for the fact that their number is so rare that it can be ignored, I'm afraid many strong people on the continent would be shocked by this poison. Over the years, relying on his strong fighting spirit, he has been suppressing the poison, but as he gets older, the rebound of the poison is getting stronger and stronger. Nalan Jia has a hunch that it won't be long before the branding poison in his body will completely erupt. Window_tabula equals window_tabula_tabula.push mode. Thumbs, feed, 01, container, tabula, below, article, thumbnail, 300x250, placement, below article thumbnail, 300 by 250, target_type, mix. Chapter 47 The Shock of the Major Families. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thinking of the brand poison in his body, Nalan Jia was in a gloomy mood. Once the brand poison breaks out, there is no medicine to cure it. As the pillar of the Nalan family, if he falls and Yanran, the girl, has not grown up yet, the Nalan family will be in danger. Bang bang bang. At this moment, there was a knock on the door outside the private room, which made Nalan Jia, who was in distress, come back to his senses. Come in. Then, Nalan Jia opened his mouth to the outside of the door, squeak. As the door of the private room opened, a beautiful maid slowly walked in with a list in her hand. Dear guest, this is the list of auction items that the supervisor asked me to send over. Please take a look. The maid took a list and slowly placed it on the table in front of Nalan Jia. Auction list? Hasn't he already given it to me? Hearing this, Nalan Jia frowned and asked in confusion, the maid smiled and explained, "The supervisor said that this auction has added an item, and this list is the latest list that has just been revised." Added an item? Hearing the maid's words, Nalan Jie's face flashed a strange color. "I'll take my leave first." After the maid sent the list, she bowed and slowly left the private room. Could it be that some extraordinary treasures have been added? Looking at the list on the table, Nalan Jie was curious. After all, if an ordinary item was added, Mittel auction house would not have to do this and send a special latest list. Thinking of this, Nalan Jie reached out and picked up the list on the table and looked at it carefully. A moment later, Nalan Jie's breathing suddenly became rapid and his face changed drastically. 6th grade Douqi pill. The finale of this auction is actually the 6th grade Douqi pill. Nalan Jie's eyes suddenly widened, and he looked at the list in his hand in astonishment. Immediately, Nalan Jie responded, and his breathing became rapid again. "This Douqi pill, I must get it." Since being poisoned, Nalan Jie has been stuck in the 6-star Do Wang realm for 4 years, and has been unable to make a breakthrough. Every time the poison attacks, Nalan Jie must spend a lot of moral cultivation to suppress it, not to mention a breakthrough. His cultivation has even shown a trend of decline in the past few years. Now, the appearance of this Douqi pill undoubtedly gives Nalan Jie hope. If he takes this Douqi pill, he will be able to break through to the 7-star Do Wang realm. At that time, maybe he can suppress the poison in his body in one fell swoop, even get rid of it. Thinking of this, Nalan Jie's expression became a little excited. He must get this Douqi pill today. At this time, in a private room not far away, Mu Chen, the head of the Mu family, also received the latest list sent by the maid. Do Ling Dan. There is actually Do Ling Dan for auction. It's really God's help. Mu Chen looked at the list in his hand and was more excited than Nalan Jie. Although the Mu family is listed as one of the 3 major families in the imperial capital with the Nalan family and the Mittel family, but in terms of strength, Mu Chen knows that there is still a big gap between the Mu family and the other 2 families. If it weren't for the great relationship between the Mu family and the Jiama Empire, and the fact that the Mu family has a lot of power in the army, it might not be enough to compete with the other 2 families. In addition, Mu Chen's cultivation is at the 4-star Do Wang realm, although he is also listed as one of the most powerful people in the Jiama Empire, but unfortunately, he is the last one at the end of the list. At this moment, Mu Chen looked at the list in his hand, his face full of excitement. If he gets this Douqi pill, his strength will increase greatly. This will shorten the gap between the Mu family and the other 2 great families. And it will also allow the Mu family to gain a firm foothold among the 3 great families. The same situation also happened in the private rooms of other great families in the imperial capital. In the early stage of the auction, there were no strange objects that would ignite the atmosphere, and those who bid were only some people sitting in the auction venue, while those powerful people sitting in the private rooms with huge wealth had not made a move so far. Ding! Another crisp bell sounded from the crystal stage, and Mitteltenberg took a small silver plate from a maid with a smile on his face. On the silver plate, there were 2 transparent small jade bottles, and in each of the jade bottles, a light green pill rolled. As soon as this pill appeared, it attracted a lot of attention. After all, in the Douqi Continent, pills are heavyweight items that can be compared with magic and fighting skills. Even some pills that can directly improve strength have attracted countless people. This pill is called Qingling pill. I believe that many people have heard of it. It can help those who have been wandering at the peak of Douqi for a long time to break through the barrier in one fell swoop. Moreover, this Qingling pill is still a 2-line level. After taking it, people with good luck may even soar to 2-star strength. Mitteltenberg pointed to the pill in the bottle and said with a smile. As soon as Mitteltenberg finished speaking, there was a commotion in the auction hall, and countless people looked at the jade bottle and the silver plate with hot eyes. This kind of pill that can help people break through class barriers is almost a rare thing even in the imperial capital, although there is only one word difference between the Do Master and the Great Do Master. Only by stepping into the latter can we truly be called the level of entering the palace in the process of practicing Do Qi. This is a near qualitative leap. Therefore, countless people are standing at the peak level of Douqi, but they have been unable to take that step. However, these various problems can be easily solved with a green spirit pill. Therefore, As soon as this pill came out, even some big families in the front row were slightly interested. After all, a green spirit pill can cultivate a great fighting master. In the long run, this deal is quite cost-effective. After all, although in the Gemma Empire, only the strong fighting emperors are the masters, at this level, the great fighter is the mainstay of many forces, so it would be best to add a few more. Of course, since you have heard the name of Qin Ling Dan, you should be aware of some of its side effects. The auctioneer smiled, with a hint of cunning in his eyes. He did not mention the devouring effect of Qin Ling Dan. It was so clear that it was only vaguely recalled, and then he waved his hand. The auction bottom price is 30,000 to 30,000. 30,000 or 40,000. As soon as the auctioneer finished speaking, someone from the back seat shouted loudly. 350,000. There were obviously many people interested in these two green spirit pills, so in less than a minute, the previous bidding price was exceeded. Chapter end. Chapter 48 Level 5 Monster Egg. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the private room, Douqi sat quietly in a chair, with his fingers crossed. Hearing the increasing price ringing in his ears, a faint smile appeared on his face. This Mitteltenberg is indeed a businessman. He only talked about the effect of this 1,000-pattern green spirit pill, but did not mention its disadvantages. Although the 1,000-pattern green spirit pill has the effect of helping the fighting master to break through the barrier and advance, it can only improve the strength of 1 or 2 stars, and there is a great chance of backlash. The shouting sounded one after another in the auction hall. In just 10 minutes, the price of a green spirit pill rose from 350,000 to about 400,000. When the price reached this point, the shouting sound became much less. After all, 400,000 for 1 pill, then 2 pills, it is nearly 1 million. This price is a bit too high for many people. 550,000. Just when the price was at 490,000, a slightly loud voice finally sounded in the private room. Hearing the price suddenly soaring by 60,000, Douqi looked over with a somewhat surprised look, and whispered in his heart, "It seems that a certain person has taken a fancy to this Qin Ling pill." The sudden shouting in the private room immediately made the auction hall, which was originally a little noisy, quieter. Some people who originally planned to raise the price again looked at each other and sat down unwillingly. Although they had some funds, compared with the big people in the private room, they were undoubtedly a little overconfident. In this case, it is better to just give up. 560,000 gold coins. 570,000 gold coins. 510,000 gold coins. 590,000 gold coins. In the end, this Qin Ling pill was sold at a price of 600,000 gold coins. After the Qin Ling pill was auctioned off, the following items were not sold at high prices. Some items were even sold after only one price was raised. This made Mitteltenberg on the stage feel a little painful, as this was related to his performance and income. Fortunately, after more than 10 minutes of this low tide, it was finally lifted suddenly. Even Douqi was attracted by the auction items. On the crystal stage, Douqi carefully raised a silver plate covered with red cloth and faced the venue with a mysterious face. "Everyone, the things that need to be auctioned next will definitely interest you. If you can cultivate them well, maybe you can have another Do Wang in the family." After listening to Mitteltenberg's introduction, Douqi vaguely realized what was being auctioned this time. A 5th-level monster egg, an iron-winged eagle. At this time, Mitteltenberg shook his hand and shook off the red cloth covering the silver plate, and suddenly a blue monster egg appeared in everyone's sight. Sure enough. Looking at the blue monster egg in Mitteltenberg's hand, Douqi smiled. The blue monster egg was covered with strange patterns, which looked quite mysterious. As soon as this so-called 5th-level monster egg appeared, the auction became a little quiet, but the silence did not last long, and it became noisy again. Even the family in the private room was a little agitated at this moment. Obviously, they were also moved by this 5th-level monster egg. After all, if this person got this monster egg, it would hatch it in the future and cultivate it well, and maybe he would get the help of a Do Wang realm. In addition, this iron-winged eagle is a rare flying monster. I like the 5th-level monster egg. In a private room, a middle-aged man looked at the monster egg in Mitteltenberg's hand on the stage with a fiery gaze. Master, this 5th level monster egg is probably not less than 1 million gold coins. If we squander it like this, we won't be able to compete for the Do Wong Dan later. Hearing the words of the middle-aged man, a man who looked like a butler behind him whispered to persuade. That's true, but other big names are probably also eyeing the Do Ling Dan. We don't have the strength to compete with them. The middle-aged man sighed. On the crystal auction table, Mitteltenberg talked about the benefits of the 5th level monster egg in his hand. The people in the audience looked at the monster egg in his hand, and their eyes suddenly became extremely hot. I believe you all understand the importance of this 5th level monster egg now. Now, let's start the auction of this monster egg. Its auction reserve price is set at 1 million. Now, the auction begins. Mitteltenberg said with a smile on the crystal auction table. 1 million gold coins, it's a bit expensive. Hearing the price of 1 million, Douqi was a little surprised, but thinking that this iron-winged eagle was a flying monster, he was relieved. Although it's a bit expensive, the flying monster is indeed worth this price. However, he could sense that after the price of 1 million appeared, the hot eyes in the venue immediately decreased a lot. Obviously, such a high price has made many people retreat. 1,100,000 gold coins. 1,100,000 gold coins. 1,300,000 gold coins. Not long after Mitteltenberg finished speaking, a series of voices came from the private room. Obviously, even at such a high price, the temptation of the 5th level monster egg still attracted many people to buy it. Soon, the price of this monster egg rose to 1.7 million. Douqi saw that the bidding was getting less and less, so he knew that he had to change his bid. Yes, this 5th level monster egg was one of the auction items he had set his sights on this time. Although, this 5th level monster egg was of no use to him, but his apprentice didn't seem to have a pet yet. If he gave this 5th level monster egg to his apprentice and triggered a 10,000-fold return, what kind of monster egg would he get? Thinking of this, Douqi had some expectations in his heart, and then he shouted loudly, 2 million gold coins. As soon as this price came out, there was an uproar in the auction venue. Afterwards, no one in the family continued to bid. This guy added 300,000 gold coins at a time, obviously announcing one thing to everyone: this 5th level monster egg, I'm determined. On the crystal auction table, Mitteltenberg heard that it was Douqi's voice, and was a little surprised. What does Lord Dan want this 5th level monster egg for? However, although he was confused, he quickly reacted. After asking 3 questions in the field, he immediately knocked down the auction hammer in his hand heavily. Chapter 49 Fierce Competition, 1/2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49 Fierce Competition. Who is this guy? So high profile, could it be the Nalan family, or the Mu family? As Mitteltenberg finalized the result, everyone looked at the private room where Douqi was, all showing shock. In their opinion, except for the top families in the imperial capital, no other world dared to act so high profile. Nalan, Xiao and Yixian also looked at Douqi's private room, guessing which family the bidder came from. And they just didn't bid, naturally wanting to preserve their strength and prepare to compete for the final Do Ling later. The climax of the 5th level monster egg lasted for a long time, and then slowly subsided, and soon after this, Douqi, who was originally curled up in a chair with nothing to do, was suddenly attracted by a medicinal herb in a small silver plate brought out by Mitteltenberg on the crystal table. This medicinal material is red all over, as if it was bathed in blood. The whole plant is about the size of a palm. At first glance, it looks like Ganoderma lucidum. As soon as this medicinal material appears, a faint fragrance spreads out, which makes people near the crystal stage refreshed. It is indeed Ganoderma lucidum. This auction is not in vain. Looking at the red Ganoderma lucidum in the hands of Mitteltenberg on the stage, Douqi couldn't help but smile. This Ganoderma lucidum is only a 5th level spiritual medicine. Logically speaking, Ganoderma lucidum is of no use to Douqi. However, this Ganoderma lucidum is a kind of medicine of the 5th grade medicine, Fu Zi Ling. That's right, this Ganoderma lucidum is the medicine for refining Fu Zi Ling. And the function of Fu Zi Ling is to completely restore some strength that has declined due to seals or internal injuries. Douqi prepared this purple spirit for the Ice Emperor Haibudong. The Ice Emperor Haibudong, because of the seal of Queen Medusa, has declined to the Douqi realm and is living in the desert city in the Tagar Desert. Since Douqi wants to seize the Azure Lotus Earth Core, he must get the map recording the location of the Azure Lotus Earth Core from him. Moreover, Haibudong has a fragment of the pure Lotus monster. These are what Douqi wants to get, and if he wants to get these from Haibudong, he must help him refine a devil breaker like Xiao Yan in the original work. Thinking of the Ice Emperor Haibudong, Douqi couldn't help but smile. Speaking of which, Haibudong and Haibudong are old acquaintances. When Haibudong won the first place in the alchemist competition, the Mitre family was recruited by Haibudong. Although he later rejected Haibudong's invitation and joined the Yunlan sect, the relationship between the two is still good. After a while, I will go to the Tagar Desert to pay a good visit to this old friend, and the Fuzi Ling. That I am preparing now is to make Haibudong owe me a favor. Lingji only lives at the bottom of the mountain, absorbing the energy of the mountain and the center of the earth to grow. It is extremely difficult for ordinary people to collect it, and even some Douqi masters or even Douwang masters dare not easily break into a place like the mountain. On the crystal stage, Mitteltenberg was explaining to the people on the stage at this moment. Afterwards, Mitteltenberg on the crystal stage also explained the role and origin of Lingji in detail, and the response in the field was not bad after his explanation. It seems that many people are interested in this Lingji. According to the evaluation, the reserve price of this Ganoderma lucidum is set at 700,000. Everyone, let's start. Then, after Mitteltenberg reported the price, he looked at the venue with a smile. After such a high price was reported, some people who were originally interested in the venue suddenly became depressed. Although they are not unable to come up with 700,000, it is normal for the price of this damn thing to double in so many competitions. Their funds are not abundant, so this kind of bidding competition is naturally within their means. 720,000, of course, except for those who want to withdraw from the bidding, those who are willing to compete for this thing are still not counted. 700,000. Douqi sat quietly in the chair, listening to the rising price, but he was not in a hurry to compete. As time went by, the bidders became more and more fierce due to the rising prices. In the end, only 2 people were left to compete, and the price at this time had risen to about 1.07 million. 1.2 million, not just as the price stalemate increased, a lazy voice finally sounded, and countless eyes followed the voice and finally stopped at Douqi's private room. The sudden surge in prices also made everyone present turn their heads in surprise. When Mitteltenberg saw that the person who was bidding was Douqi again, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes again. In his opinion, there should be nothing that Douqi would like at this auction, but I didn't expect that this Wanga was so active. He actually made 2 consecutive bids, and his bids were still surprisingly generous. The price of 1 to 200,000 suppressed the last 2 contenders in one fell swoop. Feeling the gazes from all around, Douqi ignored them. On the crystal stage, Mitteltenberg reacted, asked the stage 3 times, and then smashed the auction hammer in his hand heavily. This guy got it again. Who is this guy from, and he has so much money? It should be from one of the 3 great aristocratic families, right? Nalan, Xiao and Yixian also looked surprised and suspicious at this moment. Furukawa struck twice in a row, both of which were extremely extraordinary, which made the 2 of them begin to doubt each other's identity. Could he be from the royal family? Suddenly, an idea appeared in their minds, but soon, this idea was pushed by the 2 of them. If members of the royal family also participated in this auction, they would definitely be targeting the final fighting spirit. How can it be possible to spend a lot of money on these 2 items? Thinking of this, both of them were confused. Thinking of the Douqi that was about to be auctioned, a flash of inspiration suddenly flashed in their minds. Where did the Mitre auction house get Douqi? And there was no prior notice. It stands to reason that if there is a Douqi auction at Mitre auction house, it should be highly publicized. This will also allow people attending the auction to be fully prepared. In fact, the level of this auction can be upgraded to the heaven level. However, Mitre auction house failed to perform these actions. Unless the Mitre auction house got this Douqi, it happened suddenly and there was no time to issue a notice. And this Douqi is a 6th grade medicine, and only one person in the entire Jiama Empire can refine it. In an instant, Nalan, Xiao and Yixian already had the answer in their hearts. that is, Wang Furukawa also participated in this auction, and also provided this 6th grade Yao Do Ling. Thinking of the person who had made high-profile bids just now, Nalan Jia and Mu Chen had almost concluded that this person was Wang Guha. But it seems that Dan Wang Furukawa doesn't need these things. Thinking of the 5th-level Warcraft eggs and fire Ganoderma that they just bought at auction, the two of them suddenly fell into doubt. Everyone, what is going to be auctioned next is the last item in this auction and the final highlight. I believe that the next items will definitely not disappoint everyone. At this time, Mitre Tushan's slightly excited voice came from the crystal auction stage. Hearing the sound, Ko couldn't help but look up at the crystal stage, and when he saw the red-faced Mitre Tushan, he couldn't help but be startled, and then whispered in a low voice, "It seems that Do Ling Dan should be on the stage. It seems that the bottom-of-the-range items in this auction are about to be put on the market." Seeing that Mitre and Tushan's expressions changed a lot, they seemed to have discovered something from then on. The whispers in their mouths stopped automatically, and their eyes were fixedly waiting for the highlight of the auction. Field. Is it finally coming? Hearing Mitre Tushan's words, a touch of red appeared on his old face. Nalan Jia in the private room had a strange light in his eyes and murmured. Mu Chen, the head of the Mu family on the other side, also suppressed some of the smiles on his face at this moment, and his originally indifferent eyes became as sharp as an eagle. Pa bang. On the crystal stage, Mitre Tushan clapped his hands with a serious expression. As his applause rang out, there was a sudden clicking sound at the edge of the crystal stage. Immediately, a circle of pitch-black metal fence slowly rose up, and finally formed a circular shape to surround the stage, and even. The top of the crystal table is also covered tightly by extended metal bars. Please don't take it too seriously. This is just a measure we use to ensure the safety of the auction items. Seeing that the prison-like fence was completed, Mitre Tushan on the crystal platform faced everyone in the audience, smiled and explained. This prison is made of cold iron. Even a strong Do Wang will have difficulty breaking through within a period of time. As he spoke, the auctioneer's eyes deliberately swept across the private rooms. The meaning of his words was self-evident. Regarding his special instructions, the family representatives just smiled lightly and did not pay too much attention to it. In previous auctions, it was not unheard of for people to snatch auction items, therefore, it is normal for the Mitre auction house to be so cautious. Otherwise, if the things on the auction board were forcibly taken away by, how would it be possible to gain a foothold in the Gama Empire? Furukawa was stunned for a moment by Middle Auction House's overly cautious move, but he recovered immediately. Do Ling Dan is really too tempting for the powerful Do Wang, and it is very possible for some people to take risks in desperation. Moreover, Furukawa sensed that there seemed to be a few hidden auras on the second floor of the Mitre auction house. There is an aura in it that is extremely powerful and should have the cultivation level of a Do Wang. Furukawa guessed that this aura should come from the middle family patriarch, Mitteltenberg. It seems that even Mitteltenberg is very reluctant to this doling pill. Furukawa had a smile on his face. Furukawa continued to cast his gaze on the crystal table. At this time, the auctioneer was carefully bending over to take out a half-sized purple gold plate from the cabinet below. In the purple gold plate, there was a palm-sized cold jade. The box is standing inside. The box is pale white in color. Although they are far apart, the people below can still clearly see the faint white cold air emanating from the cold jade box. This is the best cold jade and has the ability to preserve cold air. With the appearance of the cold jade box, all the aristocratic families in the auction suddenly straightened up, staring at the cold jade box with undisguised greed in their eyes. Ignoring those greedy glances from behind the iron prison, Mitre Tushan put the purple gold plate gently on the auction table with a slightly trembling palm, and carefully lifted the lid of the box with his dry fingers. Suddenly, a yellow light suddenly shot out. Along with the yellow rays of light, the void suddenly triggered bursts of energy fluctuations. The sudden light directly illuminated the entire auction house. Some unexpected measures caused him to close his eyes habitually. Then, after they got used to it, they locked their eyes firmly on the cold jade box on the crystal table. There, a golden elixir as big as a dragon's eye was lying quietly in it. The surface of the elixir was extremely round, the elixir energy causes strong energy vibrations, a phenomenon that only higher-level elixir prescriptions can possess. The entire auction house fell into a deathly silence under the looming golden light, although many people in the field did not know the exact details of this elixir, but judging from the golden light earlier, they could vaguely know that this thing was extraordinary, so they could not help but salivate, compared to those who were not clear about the effect of this elixir. The senior officials of the big family in the private room suddenly became excited at this moment. Some strong people even had uncontrollable fighting energy in their bodies due to emotional fluctuations. It's overflowing. On the crystal stage, Mitre Tushan's eyes slowly swept over the shocked faces in the audience. With a satisfied smile, he pointed at the golden elixir and said with a smile, "Everyone, this is us. The highlight of this auction, the top-notch elixir, Do Ling Dan." Wow! As Mitteltushan finished speaking, the whole place fell silent, and then a deafening uproar and a shocking sound of cold air suddenly filled the air above the auction house. A series of red eyes, with rapid breathing, stared at the golden elixir, trying to taste the elixir. Almost more than half of the people present would not be able to see an elixir of this level in their lifetime. But now, the high-level elixir that was only rumored is now in front of their eyes. How can they not tolerate it? Excited? On the crystal stage, seeing the atmosphere created by the Do Ling Dan, Mitre Tushan smiled with satisfaction and turned his eyes to the forces sitting in the private room. He knew clearly that these were Do Ling Dan. A strong contender for Dan. Stop talking nonsense and give us a quote. After hearing Mitre Tushan's nagging words, the impatient voices of some senior family members came from the private room. Nalan, Xiao and Mu Chen stared at the Do Ling Dan in Mitre Tushan, their eyes full of heat. Ha! He smiled and nodded. The auctioneer cleared his throat and said sternly, "I believe you all know the value of this spirit-fighting pill. Now I don't set a reserve price. Everyone can bid at will. In the end, the price will be higher. The one who wins." With the appearance of the Do Ling Dan, the atmosphere in the auction house entered its hottest climax. The senior officials of the aristocratic families in the private rooms finally began bidding with red faces and shirtless faces that stunned countless people. Even for the Do Ling Dan, there was no initial reserve price set, but the moment the auction hammer fell on the Mitre Tushan, the price suddenly soared to a high of 2 million. Moreover, the price is still soaring. 2 million and 1 million gold coins. 2,300,000 gold coins. 2.5 million gold coins. 3 million gold coins. After a few breaths, the price of this doling pill had risen to 3 million gold coins. Seeing this scene, most of the people present were stunned and in disbelief. This is the first time they have seen prices with such a terrifying growth rate in so many years since they were born. Spending a lot of money, such heroic spirit and courage were vividly displayed by those forces in front of the temptation of this high-grade Do Ling Dan. The rising prices kept the atmosphere of the auction house in a roar of excitement, without ever falling for a moment. Under the sky-high price that rapidly doubled, even many people knew that they were no longer qualified to buy that thing. Maybe being able to see such a thrilling competition for money with their own eyes made them feel that their trip was worthwhile. The rapidly rising price, after a bloody fight that lasted for nearly half an hour, finally came to an end, and by this time, the price of Do Ling had risen to a staggering 5.2 million. More than 5 million. Such a huge sum of money is equivalent to the total income of the Mitre family in the Jemai Empire for a year. There must be few forces in the entire Jejia Empire who can take such a huge amount of money without any care. When the price reached this point, some weaker forces finally began to give up. With such continuous price elimination, 10 minutes later, a ruthless look flashed in Nalan Jie's eyes in the private room, and his face finally twitched. The sky-high price of 1 million was quoted, which shocked the entire auction house into silence. High-quality elixirs, the sky-high price of 1 million. After the lonely auction house lasted for nearly a few minutes, it finally gradually recovered. People looked at each other, and they were all shocked by the terrifying sky-high price, and their blood boiled all over. Millions. How long does it take a family to accumulate such a huge amount? Nalan Jie actually offered such a high price, which obviously made Mu Chen and other noble families feel extremely flustered. After looking at each other, they all withdrew their bids with ugly faces. Why don't you hammer? Seeing that there was no one bidding, Nalan Jia couldn't help but actively urged Mitteltenberg, who was stunned on the crystal stage. Mitteltenberg responded this time, and after symbolically asking the audience 3 times, he directly hammered the hammer.